Well, the nowhere. The nightmarish world that filled our minds with such morbid curiosity to know every secret and the knowledge of its obscure origin. Then you must understand something very important. The nowhere and the I's entity are interlocking with each other. So to understand the world is to understand the I entity. Also, I have two secrets. First, I'll tell you how to open jar of pickles without trying too hard and how to beat Chuck Norris in a fair fight. Okay, I'll be more realistic. I'll tell you how to enter the realm of nowhere without dreaming and going through the threshold. And second, I'll share my knowledge of the I entity. I'll tell you some crazy stuff. Stay tuned till the end though. The beginning of the existence of the world of nowhere happened simultaneously with the creation of the human race. How I know that? Because I'm awesome, and also because it's obvious. Through the description of the nowhere, you will realize that yes, it's cryptic, obscure, strange, and an unknown world. So let's cover the basic boring definition of the nowhere. It's a realm. That's it. Okay, just kidding, come on, have a sense of humor. It's a realm you find through dreams, where you go through the threshold to reach it. The threshold is a place where you're between being awake and sleep. There you find a door with an eye, and the god of the door, the ferryman, walking through the door. You see winding stairs everywhere, and the eye's entity. Okay, now let's make it more interesting and fun. This is my speculation and theory, trying to make sense of the unsensible world of nowhere. It's canon, and if it's not canon, this game sucks. In any case, the nowhere did exist before there was anyone, except maybe the I entity, and so with the existence of humanity came with them dreams and nightmares, fears and trauma, which the nowhere feeds on. The main traveling way to the nowhere is through dreams, but it's guarded by the ferryman, which he only allowed children from the age when they develop consciousness where they can perceive fear and trauma, which will make them more susceptible to be visitors of the nowhere. But there is rules that the I entity must abide, such as it cannot force the children to remain in the nowhere. It must be chosen by themselves willingly. But I believe the I entity found a loop in some way to fix that, so it can dominate and expand its influence and power further and further. How, you might wondering? I believe one of the first residents was the ferryman. His origin is unknown, but my speculation allow me to deduce he's one of the first that lost themselves to the nowhere. And the entity gave him powers that would help to bring more visitors to get into the nowhere and manipulate them into accepting it as their escapism from their misery. Once they take his hand and he takes them into the I entity and put them in the nowhere where they either become victims or monsters. They either escape or lose themselves and become their worst nightmares. Now you might have a question that I said no one was in the nowhere before the existence of humans. Then those monstrous beings in the nowhere, where did they come from? I believe that most of them are created by the I entity through the fears and nightmares of its victims, the children. It built an environment that contains every single fear and trauma and the worst unimaginable creatures to force the visitors, aka the children, into staying, either by force via the creatures being eaten or turned into low-class workers, such as gnomes and other creatures. If the kids survive for long enough, the I entity can give powers to the child to corrupt it into joining the cycle of the world of nowhere. For example, the pretender, the lady, the janitor and the doctor, and the thin man. I believe those all were kids, but turned into monsters because they spent too much time in the nowhere. And it was told by Ruth, aka no one, the more you spend time there, you start to lose your memory and lose part of yourself to the world of nowhere until you lose your whole identity and that world become everything for you. Okay, the secret of another way to enter the nowhere for any age, not just child. It was hinted by no one other than the guardian himself, the ferryman, stated that there is another way to enter other than the threshold, and talks in riddle about being pushed to find it. Okay, so that tells us two things. First, to be pushed as to be going through heavy trauma and unfathomable pain and fear till you're mentally pushed to your limit and fall into chaos and madness that will transfer you directly into the nowhere. Second thing that makes me wonder, how does the ferryman knows that way? I speculate with my 666 IQ that the ferryman was not just the first visitor into the nowhere, but also was the only one to enter the world in such manner, being pushed to his limit. That might explain why he's different from all other residents. He never run after you or try to harm or kill you. He's calm, collected, extremely intelligent, and patient. Also, his powers is incredible, and it's safe to assume that he is one of the strongest creatures in the nowhere. Maybe because he found himself in the nowhere and did not lose himself like the others. Maybe he was already lost and in the nowhere he found his calling. Okay, the second secret, it was revealed to us that the I entity actually communicates. And I want to talk about something very important. The I entity is the main antagonist of Little Nightmares, and you must understand its powers exceeds any living thing in the nowhere. His influence is all over the world of nowhere. Some say it's the reason for existence of nightmares and dreams, and that its way to influence the children to fall into a grasp to continue thriving. Its powers reach great level of emotional manipulation, incredible level of mind control, the ability to warp reality, warp time itself, giving powers, creating monsters from children fears, having influence throughout all the nowhere. Some say the whole world of the nowhere is the I entity and it's just warping reality to not show, just like in Little Nightmares 2 when it warped the reality of the signal tower. But that's weak speculation. Also, some might wondering maybe the nowhere is the creation of the I's entity too, as a hub for its evil nature, to seek domination and control. Hey, I have a crazy video coming next. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it like I missed my dad going for milk. And hey, while you're waiting for the video to get done, watch my other content. I bet you would love what you see. Wink wink and sub. Okay, see ya in the next video.